Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Zoeller. I'm an intensive care specialist and the CEO and founder of MyMirror, Australia's newest online digital mental health platform for all Australians, anywhere, anytime.
Welcome to Pure Grit with Paula McGrath. If you search the word grit, you'd see that it means to have courage, show strength of character, passion and perseverance. Throughout the series, Paul will chat to guests from all walks of life who have shown pure grit to get to where they are now. Paula, yeah, look, your hair looks fine. I've done the intro, so ready for you to talk now. Yeah, you do your talking thing.
My guest today on Pure Grit is an intensive care specialist and COVID-19 frontline worker and critical care specialist. He's worked in various Sydney hospitals like RPA, now Director of Education and Training at the Northern Beaches Hospital as well, and was the first junior doctor, I hear, ever to walk around the emergency department back in the day before it was uber cool, carrying a green tea keep cup. Way cool is this man. He's an all-round high achiever and now founder of MyMirror, which is an online psychology service for all Australians to access from their homes. But as all my guests on Pure Grit have a backstory where they have shown strength of character and perseverance to get where they are today. Please welcome Dr. Matt Zoeller. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Paul. How are you going? Thank you so much for the intro.
You probably wonder.
Taken back
to your junior days.
That's right. Yeah.
I find out little birdies tell me things.
Yeah.
Talk
yeah,
about.
I'm now wondering what else you know.
Well, a little birdie also told me. Now looking at you, I can imagine back in the day. I heard you used to be able to pull all-nighters on the dance floor with some cool moves at like some dodgy Sydney North Shore nightclub, the Pickled Possum. Now that sounds classy, Matt.
Yes, I believe that it is very important to have range.
Yeah, see, I got my secret spies out there, Matt.
That's good to hear. Keep it interesting anyway.
Welcome to Pure Grit.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to chat. Now, I want to just start with you working as an intensive care specialist in these times, in this COVID, lockdown pandemic. So you were instrumental in planning for COVID in ICU.
That's right. Yep. So across the critical care spectrum at the Northern Beaches Hospital. When COVID was approaching and we had quite a lot of information dropping from around the world, obviously, as you can imagine, there was some significant fear and apprehension that started to develop within our hospital system and across Australia. I'm sure this was very similar, but particularly in our hospital, the particular kind of fear that was developing was, are we prepared enough? Obviously, do we have enough personal protective equipment? And are our processes going to be able to cope with the onslaught that we, should we actually face the same as what China, originally Italy and then Spain, the UK and the US were facing? How would we be able to deal with that? So I was the lead, certainly not, the only person. There was many people contributing on a grand scale to the critical care response. But I was the lead on that team. So we put together a package of planning, a package of regular and rigorous simulation and education, where we ran through with the emergency department, the anaesthetic department and the intensive care department, including, all healthcare workers involved, from, the nursing staff all the way up to the consultants and the specialists within those teams. As much simulation as we possibly could, as much planning as we possibly could in the shortest possible period of time, in order to allay as much of that fear as possible and to make sure that come game time we were on point and ready to go. There was weeks of planning. There was a lot of stress involved because a lot of us were very worried about what we were actually going to face. We were worried about whether we would have impacts felt close to home as well with regards to our colleagues, and whether we would actually get given back in the swine flu and some of the reports out of the SARS as well earlier on. People did lose colleagues close to them. So there was fears with regards to whether we would have people off work, but also whether we would actually know a colleague that we lost as well. So, as you can imagine, a pretty significant amount of fear at that time.
Fast forward now to where we are today, where restrictions are starting to be lifted and etc. What has transpired in your eyes in intensive care? Has it been what was predicted?
So no, it certainly wasn't what was predicted. I think we did manage, so the Australian population very much managed to steer clear of a very significant spike in number of cases that would have left us in a position like some of our counterparts in other countries around the world. We were most interested in steering clear of the resource overwhelm, and we were able to, obviously the flattening of the curve is the most common term that people hear thrown around, and we were able to flatten that curve to a significant enough extent that we didn't actually face that overwhelm.
So did you have any COVID-19? Did you see any in your emergency department?
Yeah, so we did see quite a few cases, and that was a range of cases from mild all the way up to severe, and so then that's across the spectrum, through the emergency department, through the hospital, through the intensive care, through the theatre system as well, for patients having elective not elective surgeries, but emergency surgeries, but that weren't actually related to COVID as well. So we did see a reasonable amount, certainly nothing like what the countries around the world saw, but we did face some.
So do you think now, with restrictions being lifted and we're going into, I've heard it talked about a bit in the media, going into colder times, do you think that we possibly could be open to a second wave of it, from your professional
It's certainly
opinion?
on the cards. Yeah, it's certainly on the cards for us. I think one thing that we have learned from this so far the last couple of months is that we, whilst we're modelling as hard and fast as we can, while we're trying to predict as accurately as we can, we certainly haven't had all the answers in terms of prediction. I think Australia has done an amazing job at flattening that curve and getting us to where we are now, which is a safer position. But I think that we really won't know until we go through the next couple of months what we're going to face. And that kind of uncertainty is just as hard as facing a big challenge for a lot of people as well.
Right. So this brings me to you now. You're now a new passion. Is it a new purpose through these hard times, I guess, through the bushfires, through now the pandemic and people being stuck at home like me, home learning, a lot of stress, trying to work, home learning. It's just like I can hear every parent around Australia now understanding, just praising teachers like I do. So you've decided to launch an online platform for psychological help, which is available to all Australians.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So the platform's name is My Mirror. Yep.
So where did that come from for you? Like, where did you start? You must be a really, really busy man. So very busy in emergency. So where did you decide, right, I need to do something about helping? Was it colleagues at first? You thought you need to help their mental health, or how did you get that idea?
Yeah, that's right. So it did come from originally my direct experience within medicine. So as a fellow in my final years of training in intensive care, you start to take on more non-clinical roles, and as part of some of those roles, I started to develop a bit of a key interest in the welfare space. So I was interested in how to provide and set up mentorship programs and sort of more social programs that would improve the culture within the hospital system, improve the rates of bullying and harassment, improve the rates of burnout and emotional fatigue amongst my colleagues, and not just medical colleagues, but also the nursing care and nursing and allied health staff as well. So I was sort of involved with a number of programs at Royal Prince Alfred, and whilst we did achieve some great things for the hospital and the people within the hospital at those times, one of the things that I kept noticing was that when it comes down to actually providing people with high quality psychological care, the access is very poor across the board.
Right.
It's not that we don't have a lot of very well-trained psychologists around Australia, because we certainly do, but it was that the accessibility issues were an absolute nightmare when it comes to trying to get the people who require the help through the first initial stages of making a commitment that would see them to get, obtaining a level of understanding where they thought, okay, I actually do need to speak to someone, even if it's only once or twice.
Yeah.
That's right.
So this
then,
is a how does this platform, how does this online My Mirror work? So anyone can access it Australia-wide, is that right? You can just access it.
Yeah, spot on.
Is it by Medicare? Do you have to pay?
So we've tried to make sure that with all of the accessibility barriers that we've removed, that we've covered the whole lot. So when you look at accessibility barriers, it's not only geographical and time related. For healthcare workers, it's particularly sort of shift work kind of
That's
stuff.
right.
And
Yeah.
it can be that if you need to speak to someone, you might need to speak to them late at night or on the weekend or on a public holiday. And psychology is a now issue, and you need a now solution to it. So accessibility with regards to time is very important as well, or timing, and finance is a huge one. Through My Mirror, we've decided to come up with a couple of different schemes so that we can improve that access barrier as well. So you can have the service completely for free if you have financial hardship, and you need a mental health care plan to be able to set that up.
Yep.
So
you have to go to a
very small
GP.
gaps
Is that
as well.
right? You have to go to GP and get a mental health care platform.
Yes, that's right. So so the mental health care plan comes from a GP. So a big part of your psychological care is having an assessment from a medical practitioner as well, who can say, look, let's look at everything and make sure that we're not missing something. So for some people, they might have a thyroid issue. They could have, a direct medical physical problem that could be causing the mental health issues.
Yes.
So that needs to be sorted out at the start. And then once the GP is happy, they provide a mental health
issue.
care.
My mental health issue right now is trying to cope. Like, it'd be everyone. Like, it has been really, really stressful. Like, I have had my son home now for like 8 weeks, and it takes the stress level to a whole. Like, I'm hearing it just through peers and friends or whatever. I'm actually hearing it like just hearing like heads explode. What the hell was that? Is that my computer, Josh? Hang on one sec. Sorry, Matt. I just got to sort out why that might have been my emails, I think. Just going to close that down, Josh. Sorry. Sorry. We'll just do a pickup, Josh. Is that okay? Because that was a big loud noise. Oh yeah, I'm I feel like I'm going crazy. I know it's everybody at the moment being sort of locked down and having to do can't say homeschooling, you've got to say home learning, but it's like it's a real like people have been making jokes. I'm reaching for a drink at 10 a.m. Like it's been a really stressful time for lots of people around Australia. Like, just everyone I speak to is just having breakdowns. Like, I just had to run out of the house or whatever. So I'm sure the mental, like, there's people just should be reaching out and speaking to someone, because it's really, I'm sure households around Australia are struggling. I'm thinking relationships, partnerships. I certainly have felt it myself. It's been affecting all relationships, I think. And I think this is fantastic that this seems to be a platform you've gone sort of in between people that just need a little bit of help, probably before that lifeline type help, where you feel like you're in crisis. Is that right? You've done this to sort of help in between when you need help before it gets too bad. So I can just do it from home and log on.
That's right.
So you can do it from your privacy of your own home. You don't have to go to an appointment.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I mean, you touched on quite a few points there, but one of the things you mentioned was that it is very confronting facing a completely different setup from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep at night. Everyone at the moment is facing something dramatically different to what they're used to.
Yes.
It might be that it might be that your situation feels trivial to other people's, but it's all unique to our own relative position, and that makes it stressful in its own way.
Yeah.
And I think you identified some of your particular pressure points and stress
mine
points at the
I think
moment.
is just the most common that a lot of mums and dads are experiencing at the moment. Certainly
That's
everyone
right.
I'm in
Yeah.
contact with. This actually isn't really water in here. No, it's straight vodka. No,
That's the yeah. That's mum's naughty cheap bottle. Yeah.
but
That's right.
I can tell you that it feels like it some days. It's like, oh, luckily I've refrained like from a 10 a.m. drink or anything like that. But I've heard other people going, making jokes. I'm going to become an alcoholic, and that's just the time of being locked in and at home, not being able to do your usual things. So, but let's get to you a bit, Matt. Like, I want to know, like, you're obviously a really, really high achiever. You become a intensive care specialist. Did you always want to be a doctor?
No, look, I think there are elements growing up that definitely in retrospect speak to me and say that, yeah, you did always want to become a doctor. I don't think growing up I always had that in mind. I had my own brush with medicine at a very young age. So I was actually spent 4 weeks on a ventilator
Wow.
in one of the children's hospitals in Sydney with a really bad episode of asthma that was exacerbated by a viral infection at the time. That was in the early 80s, the late 80s. And
4 weeks
at that
on a
time,
ventilator.
Yeah, that's right. So a very long time.
That's a long time.
And with a lot of complications related to the respiratory failure, so the respiratory illness there. And at that time, I think they did an absolutely wonderful job from what I hear from my mum and my dad, that were going through the stress of being there all day, every day at that point. But also intensive care was very much in development through the sort of the 70s and 80s in Australia. And so we now know a lot more about how to manage these kind of conditions than we used to back then. And one of the big issues that comes out of any intensive care stay, and the more severe, the worse it usually is PTSD. About 40 to 70% of people who have a severe illness that end up in ICU develop some form of PTSD. And so that can be sort of low grade, or it can be up to, severe functional impairment, and, inability to return to work, and all sorts of, mental health diagnoses that can come attached to that as well. And certainly as a young boy,
how old
I did
were you?
face significant issues with sleep. As I was 5 at that time.
5.
When I had that episode, yeah.
Your poor parents.
Yeah, so
I see. I read
yeah,
that your parents ended up splitting. Come from a divorced.
They did, yeah.
Family. So do I. But I can understand too that sort of at 5 that would have been very, very stressful on your parents. Not that may be nothing to do with why they split up, but that sort of pressure on parents would be awful. I couldn't imagine having my son in hospital on a ventilator for 4 weeks. That must have been a really, really tough time for you and your parents. Terrible to watch a sick child.
I think you're probably right there, and I think it did put a lot of stress on our family, and it may be one of the contributing factors, to the eventual divorce of my parents. I think probably like a lot of parents that divorced, in the end it was a good decision. But
yes.
For them, having 3 kids is enough of a stress on a family, and then having one that was
sick,
knocking on death's door with that sick for a period of time that's long enough to really put enough stress and a few cracks through the relationship.
Do you have any asthma or anything now as an adult? Any repercussions?
No, not now. Certainly, I've been a long time practitioner of yoga and sort of started that in my early or late teenage years,
Namaste.
and early 20s. Yeah, absolutely. And to my actual enjoyment, I've never had to say namaste, because the type that I've done is a Chinese version. So I've been
what do
able
you
to steer
say?
clear of
Ni hao ma.
that hipster angle. That's right.
What do you say in that one then? What do you say in your?
We don't say anything. We just let the body talk. We just let the body talk.
You don't have to do it in any hot room or anything. It's not like Bikram or
no hot room. It's all about. It's a pretty interesting style. It's based on the Taoist philosophy, the Chinese. A significant portion of Chinese sort of follow on a day-to-day basis, but it's where all that Tai Chi and that kind of thing came from as well. It's the same philosophy, but it's all about yin yang. It's the balance type of approach, and it's very different to Indian yoga. But for me, that was a large part of my exit from having any issues with asthma or any respiratory issues, and I really haven't had anything since my early 20s as a result of that. Yeah.
So you were speaking of your parents, you from the northern beach. You grew up right by the beach, like luckily,
very close to the beach.
Where I live now, about 200 steps from the ocean, which is just like a blessing. So, and your dad, you're a surfer, so you surf.
That's right.
Still today?
Yeah, surf since I could walk. Yeah, and I still surf whenever I can get out there.
Wow.
A very, very integrated part of my life. I don't identify with being anything more than I do with being a surfer.
So you are. I should have introduced you as Dr. Matt Zoeller. What do you say? You wouldn't drop in on anyone because you'd be too good for that. But you'd be like, tubing Dr. Matt Zoeller. Like, so you're obviously shortboard.
That's right. Yeah, no, I dabble with anything, but my upbringing was shortboarding. Yeah.
Wow. And your dad is a surfboard.
Just for the record, I'm not beyond dropping in on people. Just for the record.
I don't know the protocol.
When the time's right.
My son is 8. My son is 8, and he's just started surfing. I grew up in the Adelaide Hills, so I didn't grow up near the beach. So he's growing up, 200 meters. So there's, he's just started surfing and he's loving it. He's just got the bug. I can't really teach him because, I don't know how to teach, but he's already, first wave stood up. He's just got like the foamy to start with. Nice. But he's hooked. He's got it. He's now hooked. So hopefully he'll end up like you, surfing his whole life, because he's also.
That's one of the great things about surfing as well, is it's. Oh yeah, that's right. So nippers is often a starting point for a lot of surfers, and like surf life saving at a young age. And that you get used to the water and you get strong in the water. You're happy with knowing where and how to operate with rips and those kind of safety factors as well through surf life saving and nippers. So that's always really beneficial. But one of the great things about surfing is that you can teach yourself. I taught myself just by having a dad that made surfboards. I did teach myself. You teach it. It's a great thing for autonomy and agency development with kids as well. So you're learning how to obtain some power over the world around you, the natural world. And you get that dose of exercise every time, the dose of fun. It's got mental, and physical benefits every single time. There's a little bit of hassle and things like that out there that can sometimes create some stress, but beyond that, it's a pretty wonderful sport and hobby to have in your background.
I said to him after podcast today, okay, I'll take you down. He's just waiting to go. That's the one thing about doing home learning. Once he's finished, you can go and get in the surf. So, I'll just sit on the beach and watch him. I've had a go, and I've been described as, oh yeah, nice view, like nice view from behind. I don't know if it's too late to learn, but I have a go. That's for sure.
Never too late.
I've had a go. I'm not very good at.
I'm glad to hear that.
Standing up, but my issue is I actually broke my neck when I was 19, my C1, and so I can't really look up, and
oh wow,
and it's not the great position for me. If I could look flat down and paddle, that'd be different, but the looking up is not the I don't think it's for me. I think it puts too much strain on my neck, because you don't sort of look up at the waves.
Yeah, would do.
No, I think I better I better give up trying to paddle on a surfboard. It just puts me in a bit
Stand-up paddleboarding would be your sport then? Yep.
Stand-up paddleboarding. I've had got that. I love that.
No. Yeah, that's good.
Nice and flat. I've tried to catch a wave. I have to drop down to my knees because it's like, I'm not so good on the waves yet. But so with your schooling, I was reading when I was doing research on you just sort of like a sporting school. So you were obviously excelled in sport.
Yeah, I was the kind of kid that everything that I saw, I wanted to have a go at, and pretty much everything that I wanted to have a go at, I wanted to be good at. I wasn't actually. Oh,
surprise! I wouldn't pick that in your personality.
So there's definitely a very strong consistency throughout my entire life with that kind of theme. I actually, surprisingly, I'm not very competitive. I do like to do really well in what I put my mind to, and particularly if if it's something that I think something new that I've picked up, and I just want to nail it to a certain extent, I'll work pretty hard to get to that point, and then I might give it away. But when I was a kid, every sport that I did come into contact with, I end up in most rep teams, some sort of state level teams, and for swimming and surf life saving, things like that, I was up to sort of national level as well. So I certainly had a consistent sporting interest that was at a reasonably high level as well as a kid.
Where do you come?
To I went to a sporting high school but it was only for one term. So I actually went for 3 different sports. And after the first term, I don't really remember this very strongly, but Mum tells me I came up to her and said, I've only been going to about a quarter of the maths lessons that I should be, because I'm just playing sport the entire time. And I don't think I'm going to learn anything. So can I go to another school? And then I ended up going to Manly High, which is a selective school that was only down the road, but more of a focus on the academic aspects.
So you wanted to learn. Do you think sort of being passionate and excelling at sport and being focused, do you think that came from either one of your parents? Obviously your mum was a big influence on you because you obviously stayed with your mum when your mum and dad split up. So you think she helped you or guided you to have a bit of ambition and drive, or where do you think that drive came for you from? Where was that drive?
Yeah, so mum was definitely a big part of that. So my mum's an incredibly capable, very, very intelligent person who didn't finish high school. I think she dropped out in year 10 and sort of did the hippie flower power movement for a couple of years. And, much to her parents' dismay, or my grandparents' dismay at that time, I understand. But I think that was sort of pretty common in her era. And I think from making those decisions and then having a couple of kids and feeling like she could have lived out a different life that had a spectrum of different types of success or achievement, I think she was very, very keen to make sure that her 3 kids, so my brother and my sister as well, had all the opportunities to achieve from an academic point of view as well as sporting, and so she always drove us pretty hard to make sure that we not only had the opportunities but also that we were paying attention to that, and that we could set ourselves up and not make some of the similar mistakes to what she made. So she may not explicitly state it like that, but that's you can.
I'm interested in that. That's sort of what I generally ask all my guests, because I'm interested in what your childhood plays on what your future is going to come, or where you find your passion and your purpose in life. And it's interesting. Where do you come in the kids, like in the 3 kids? What number?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay. So you got 2 younger siblings. I'm the baby of 4. So
that's all right.
Yeah, I had to fight my way. I had to fight my way up with my brothers and sisters. But my mum was the same, single mum. Ended up being a single mum with the 4 kids at home, and every one of my siblings has really excelled in what they do. Interestingly.
Oh well.
Yeah, and so that seems, sometimes I find that's a little bit of a common. I'm not saying that parents. My mum never pushed us in any way whatsoever, but she made sure she drove us wherever we needed to go, whatever sport, whatever we were into. She was like a taxi service. I feel for her. I think, how does she cope going to everybody's sport and everybody's interests, all four of us? Like, it wouldn't have been easy. And work. I just don't know now thinking about it. Me just with my one child, it's hard enough. I really admire her now, in retrospect, you think, wow, she did an amazing job. And it's like obviously similar to your mum. She'd be very proud of you, Matt.
Yeah, I think she is. She's very proud of all of us. We've all done pretty well, So,
she's cheers to your mum.
And that's right. Yeah.
Hope you did something nice for her for Mother's Day. So, yeah. You did something nice.
Unfortunately, I was working. I was working in intensive care, so I was looking after other people on Mother's Day.
Good excuse.
But some nice messages were sent around, and
so you ended up obviously doing well in high school. I see that you got something like 99%. Oh my goodness! Talk about nerd alert. Talk about must have put your head down, bum up, into the books when you.
Yeah, but in my defence though, I was very much a middle ranking student up until year 11. So
are you?
I did put my head down in the last year, and very, very hard. I just wanted to see what I could do, I guess.
Everyone listening now is in year 12. See, you just have to put your head down. So anyone that's listening now, just focus now, because I feel sorry for the students that are in year 12 at the moment because of.
Yeah, it must be tough at the moment.
It would be really tough, but if they really, really focus, I'm sure they will still be able to do as well. Like you just said, I focused by year 12. So year 11s that are listening, remember year 12. If you put your mind to it, you got a similar score to my brothers. I didn't.
Is that right?
I must. Yeah, they did the same, but they were real studiers. They just studied in that last year, like really focused because they knew, what they wanted to do. I didn't do too badly, even though I'm a bit more creative, but I didn't do too badly. Not that I studied like you would have. I wish I did. In hindsight, I wish I did because I probably would have done a lot better. But not that. But the thing is, I didn't need it for what I wanted to do. So that's another thing. I thought my brothers knew they needed this particular score to do what they wanted to do probably. Had you decided that that's what you wanted to become a doctor by year 12?
No, I hadn't actually.
And
it's an interesting point that you touch on that you didn't need the score, because I had a few mates in my high school as well who wanted to get into engineering, and at that time engineering was 75 at some universities in Sydney to get in. It's a very very low score compared to something like 99. You need obviously incredible faculties to.
Isn't 99 like perfect score? You can't get higher than 99, can you? There's no 100%, is there?
There's 100. Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, it's a rank. Yeah, it's a rank. So so they rank you as you go down the scale. You get less and less people. You get there's a certain amount of people point at every percentage on the way down, essentially. But no, I mean these friends of mine, they knew what they wanted to get into, and so they just aimed for that and they got that mark. And for them, it's just worked out perfectly. And I think it's actually a really important point because knowing what you want, if you do know it, is a great help, because if you don't need to stress yourself out to get the absolute best mark just to guarantee that you might get into whatever could be suitable at the time, then you can enjoy your life more effectively at that point, because there's absolutely no point stressing out more than you need to. I'm a firm believer that the last minute drives us all, and if you don't have a last minute in place, you need to put one in place so that you can force yourself to work hard towards a timeline, because working really hard for extended periods of time is hard for anyone. It doesn't matter how capable you are. So for year 12 students, that last sprint, that 1 year, it's really important to understand that if you put your head down for that period, it's not going to be forever. But you can achieve great things, and you'll be surprised at how much range you've got as well, how much higher you can go than what you think you can.
Wow, that's really good advice. But if someone's listening that really wants to get into medicine, for example, and they don't quite get the mark for year 12, there is also after school you can go and get a end up going into medicine, isn't it? If you don't quite make the mark this year, if they want to get into medicine, you can go again, like to, what is it called when you go to uni later?
Postgraduate.
Postgraduate, yeah. Like,
I mean, you can do mature age sort of versions as well. There's many different routes to medicine. Yeah, like there is with everything in the education realm, particularly in Australia, because we don't have the prohibitive costs as well, like some of the other countries around the world do. There's a lot of entry mechanisms, but you certainly don't need to know in year 12.
How did you go through university? How did you go when you got into university? What happened for you? Were you like everyone else, like a really struggling student? Like, where did you go?
I did have a little bit of a struggling student story. I went to Western Australia to study uni.
So you went to double A.
So
okay.
So I went as far
packed your bags, left home.
At that point. Yeah. I was the teenager that used a little bit of angst fueled me to go as far away as possible, and it definitely bit me in the backside to some extent, because it was I had no friends over there at all, no family, no contacts, so I had to rebuild everything. And at that age, at 17, you can't appreciate the balance that you have in your life from your friends, your family, your social connections, and the hobbies that you perform day in, day out that actually give you that balance. So, I lost surfing immediately. I didn't have a car, didn't have any access to get to the beach at all, and wasn't living anywhere near the beach. I didn't have any friends or family. And whilst I made some, fairly quickly, because of that situation, and it was sort of pressure cooked, so I had to develop them quickly. It did take me a while, and actually the first 3 years, in retrospect, were very, very hard on me. So I worked a couple of jobs almost always the whole way through my 6-year degree.
Uni,
everything. So I worked at soil yards, I worked at bottle shops, I worked at picking and packing in a number of different factories. I did a ton of blue collar stuff. I used to do heaps of trade work, so I worked with tilers and pool builders and brickies labourers and all that kind of stuff. I worked at pharmacies. I did so many jobs.
Different jobs,
because just needed to cover the ends financially. But that obviously puts pressure on when you're studying medicine as well. You've got to you're at uni every day. It's not an arts degree. You can't just go for 10 hours a week and then pass at the end of term. You do have to go most of every day. Even in the first couple of years, there's a lot of science to rote learn.
A lot of work.
And it burned me out in the first couple of years, and I took a year off as a result of that, just to recoup, and then earn a bit of money, and went back with a bit more in the kitty and a bit more of a stronger perspective. And by that point as well, I had some good friends over there, some friends that had become family, and so I developed those social connections and networks, and it was able to buy a car and that kind of thing, and get myself down to the beach. And
did you never think that you should maybe have a go at modelling the way you look? That might have made you a bit more fast and money. You never thought that? Or that's not really your personality,
well,
is it?
I needed you to tell me back then.
Yeah, no, I certainly, but it's not that your personality. You could have made some quick bucks, surely.
Well, if you told me back then, I would have had a crack
photographic work or something. So now you've got a partner and you're a dad.
That's right.
How do you juggle being an intensive care specialist, a dad, and a partner? You must be, you must still do shift work. Do you?
Not strict shift work. So we do 7-day blocks, in which we're there sort of 10 to 12 hours a day for those 7 days, and then we either work another week straight, or sometimes we get a week off. So we do work a lot, and particularly in my fellow years, I pretty much worked every day for 2 years straight. So it is challenging, but I have to say that I don't juggle it on my own. My partner Corinne allows me to do what I do. She's the balance behind everything for me.
How did you meet Corinne?
And so she's an intensive care nurse. So we met at work, which is like your classic Grey's Anatomy story.
I didn't. Why did I even have to ask that? Before we were actually recording the podcast, I said to Matt, did all the nurses and doctors chase you around because with the wards when you were And now you didn't tell me that Corinne is actually an intensive care nurse. That's a lovely story, because that's something I probably would have expected. That's a bit cliche, I know, but I just felt that was my comments earlier when we were chatting. I didn't know she was.
It's much to our dismay as well. We'd like to not be a cliche, but in the end,
well, you work so much hours. Yeah, like hello. You would have been making a few, lots of nurses' hearts flutter, I'm sure, in the early days. Like they'd be like, "Oh my God, here comes Dr. Matt. Oh my God," I can just imagine. I could just hear that. "Oh my God, here he comes with his keep cup of green tea."
And it was my clicky shoes as well. I was known for my clicky shoes.
Shoes? What's the clicky shoes?
I had a terrible set of of black leather shoes that had this like really predominant click on that actually sounded like they were high heels, and so people knew me for these.
You're not short, are you? You didn't have the big heels, like the big chunky heels on your shoes.
Not for height reasons. Yeah.
You're not like Grant Denyer putting on the big shoes to make you sound taller.
No, luckily I'm 6 foot, so I'm not
so
you're
short. Tall. You're tall.
Not that tall, but yeah, tall enough. Yeah.
So have you got a little girl or a little boy?
Little girl, Finn.
Oh, lovely. And how old?
And we've got a second one on the way. So Finn's 20 months.
And when will the new one be born?
So she's end of July.
Wow, that's coming up soon.
Close.
Life's going to change a bit there again. With the second one.
It's going to start off with a home birth. So
home birth. Well, I think that you'd be well capable to have a home birth. You've got you there to assist.
That's right. Yeah, the home birth midwife that we've got is absolutely amazing and very lovely, and I'm sure she's incredibly capable. But she constantly looks at me like, "Well, you'll be there." So
you'll laugh at my story. I wanted to.
It's been a while since I've done peds.
I did hypnobirthing. I was so excited.
Oh yeah.
I was so excited for my hypnobirthing course I did, and I was so ready to have a nice, relaxed, no drugs birth. I ended up with an emergency cesarean. So all my hypnobirthing was thrown out of the but not really. I think the hypnobirthing
not completely
helped with the recovery, because I was actually in full labour when I went to my 38-week appointment, but I didn't know. So maybe my hypnobirthing was a little bit too good. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in a bit of pain," but he's like, your waters have broken and have you eaten?" "Yeah, I just had sushi. I just had sushi for lunch." And he's like, "You need to go to hospital now." I was like, "Huh?" And I was like, and he's like, "Yeah, you need to." And my son was very badly breech, and so a little emergency cesarean that ended up taking an hour and a half.
Oh wow!
So, yeah,
big deal. Well,
that was my story.
Sounds like your hypnobirthing must have worked. I mean, Corinne did hypnobirthing as well, and so I know firsthand how effective it can be. Yeah.
Well, I was up straight away afterwards, but I would have. That was my dream, just to have this, lovely birth. No drugs. It was the opposite. I had so much drugs, obviously, pumped into me. And but I recovered really, really quickly. Like I was up and about straight away, and that's the way life goes. You don't know. I'd been trying everything. I'd been doing upside down in the pool. I'd been doing spins. I was trying to move the baby, from out of its breech position. Nothing,
all the voodoo tricks.
Nothing worked. Absolutely nothing. And he said I would have breech birthed you, but you're way too small. Like he just went no, and made the right decision.
Too high risk,
probably wouldn't have worked out great. And I actually gave birth to my first son 13 years ago on Mother's Day, actually, and at 6 months pregnant. So I had to say hello and goodbye. So the first thing was me like, is the baby going to be okay? Suddenly I just went from hypnobirthing out the window, is the baby going to be okay? That's all that. Whatever to make the baby okay. So I actually am very, very lucky that it all went, smoothly, and I have my beautiful son, who's a bit of a pain in the butt at the moment. Wait till you have an
beautiful
8-year-old.
in many different ways.
Yes, I know a 20-month-year-old has their own challenges, but I look back at those days and think, oh, they were bliss, those young days,
Yeah.
without that answering back and all of that. So,
Yeah, that's right.
so hopefully you've got another
I
bubble
imagine
today.
yeah, we're very excited. Yeah, very excited.
So, Corinne is not working at the moment because she's obviously
No,
that's good. So she's not around the COVID stress. But do you worry about
she's
that
not.
you
No.
are, and then you coming home to your pregnant
Yeah,
wife?
originally we're very, very concerned about that, and I think a lot of healthcare workers were. But and sort of people talked about their plan for how they'd disinfect, themselves coming home, and whether they'd sleep in a separate room to what they normally sleep in, and whether they'd be around the family when they're working in and amongst COVID patients and that kind of thing. And, overseas it was certainly a big issue. In Australia, it didn't end up being such a big issue, as you know. But we had all these plans. We even had our across the road neighbours offer us their little Airbnb for me to stay in for a month or two. So that there was some kind of separation there. Yep. Just in case, because we didn't know originally how the effects on pregnant women would play out. So we didn't have the data to say that it's actually probably going to be pretty low risk, or a small chance of any complications there. So we were concerned originally. Then more data came through, and the problem didn't really hit as we'd expect in Australia. So it all sort of dissipated into a bit of almost like nothingness. Not even the calm before the storm, because it was the storm had sort of passed, and so it was just sort of us waiting to be punched in the face when we'd been expecting a punch in the face for some time, and we were ready for it.
And the punch never came, which is amazing. So Matt, how can I help you with my Pure Grit podcast? Because you've overcome such a massive health challenge, and you've shown Pure Grit to get where you are today, and now launching My Mirror. How can I help you? Like, what message do you want to get out for My Mirror, like for everyone who's listening, if they feel like they need to access your online psychological help? Just, what do they need to do? Obviously register on your page.
Yeah. So there's a really streamlined and intuitive process to how you can utilize our service. There's a very small amount of information we need from the customer before they sign up. They can book a session really easily. They can either choose their psychologist, or they can use our automated matching technology on the system, and all of it's very easy to use and run through. We made sure the design of the online platform was essentially as easy for the person who can only turn a computer on, or doesn't know very, very much at all about technology, right up to the person who's knows a lot about technology. And then the video conferencing or audio conferencing session that you have with your psychologist, again, it's very, very easy to follow that through. You don't need to use Zoom links or Skype links or set any other software up. It's all on the one program.
It's all on the
so we tried to make it very, very easy for people.
Great.
It's all on the one page. Yep. But I guess the important steps before that is the recognition that you don't have to have a mental health diagnosis to benefit from mental health support or psychological support. And the biggest part of the problem when it comes to the mental health crisis in Australia is not that we don't have services out there that aren't effective, because we have a lot of them and they're very, very effective at doing what they're doing. But the biggest problem is that most people don't recognise that they could utilise a psychological service to a great benefit for them.
Big benefit.
So
I was reading your statistics that according to the Black Dog, 1 in 5 Australians between 16 and 85 experience mental illness in any year, but 54% of people do not seek any treatment. I can't believe that figure. 54%.
Yeah, it's absolutely baffling statistic.
So they just battle it on their own.
Mind-boggling. Well, I think a large portion don't recognise that. They don't put 2 and 2 together, in the sense that we've been taught that if you've got a sore back, you can go and see a physio, you can do some yoga, you can do some stretches, you can try and improve that back. Now, if that sore back may not have a formal diagnosis of a fractured bone or a torn ligament or something like that, and you can have an MRI and a CT scan, and it wouldn't show anything. but you still got a painful back and it still causes you dysfunction in your life. And so then there's a lot of mechanisms that people understand very readily about how to identify that issue and go and seek help or to improve it on their own. But when it comes to mental health or psychological distress, or even just baseline the stress as a term, most people aren't aware that if you have a rough week at work, it's better to speak to a psychologist who's a trained professional to get rid of that completely out of your system.
Let it go.
Then you can move on without, then it doesn't become a scar. It doesn't build up. And so, the preventative power of speaking to someone when you've got something stressful going on is incredible.
So where do you find all your psychologists? How have you sourced all your psychologists? Just in case psychologists are listening and I go, wow, I love this. My mirror. Like, where do you get all your psychologists to help you now online?
So the psychologists can apply to work for my mirror.
Great.
Become part of my mirror team.
I'm just thinking out of the box, thinking that someone listening might go, I'm a psychologist. I'd love to, inquire.
Yeah, so there's certainly, we've written in a mechanism in the platform as well. So it's very easy for psychologists who might be interested in seeing what we do and how they could work with us to jump on. Again, small amount of information they have to put in. Then we can set up an interview time with them to have a bit of a chat using our video conferencing technology. So it's all really easy. They don't have to, come and visit an office or something like that. Anyone anywhere in Australia can join our team.
So remote people out in remote areas, everything that can't necessarily, they could be out on a farm and really struggling, and they can just get on and get to talk to someone.
Psychologists and patients alike. So it's
fantastic.
And we've also got GPs that work through the platform and external GPs as well that can utilize our platform to put all their mental health care plan, their referral directly into our system, so the patient doesn't have to worry about taking a paper form, going and finding a psychologist. The GP can put all the notes into the system, and then the patient can then go home within an hour. They could have booked a session to see the most suitable psychologist for them. So we've got a huge range to choose from with different areas of expertise and experiences in their background. You can read all of their bios on our platform as well, so you can get an idea of who you're most suited to. That's right. Yeah, because a big problem of
done, Matt. I think that's fantastic. Good on you. It's really, really good. I mean, I know how busy you must be. Now it's going to take your busyness to a whole new level. Well done. You're just, is this because you've just been very passionate? Is this been your passion that you wanted to pursue? Like, you just have gone, right, I really want to do this, really want to help and make a difference because you are a difference. You already make a difference to patients coming into ICU, but now you're making a difference on two levels.
Yeah, I wanted to make a difference. I felt beyond a certain point, I feel like a well-trained intensive care specialist could do what I can do. And there certainly is an element with my mirror where day in and day out at work, I was seeing that I was providing all this benefit from an intensive care point of view, but when I was providing supervision for my trainees and when I was just talking to people, every single day I would speak to another colleague or another healthcare worker who was struggling with something with regards to emotional burden or impact of the job or psychological stress. And I in the end, I felt I could make a bigger impact in that realm if I built something that didn't really exist in the market and could help a lot of people at scale. And if the model worked, I just wanted to build it and make it bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. And with data and auditing and research of that model, make it even more robust and evolve it and continue to grow the solution. And not just rest on our laurels once we'd set it up.
I'm going to make a prediction here on Pure Grit. I think, Matt, you're going to end up being like our next, look out for Matt. I reckon you're going to end up being your next doctor on television, you're going to start popping up Dr. Andrew Rochford, like that. You're going to be like the next, there he is. There's Dr. Matt Zoeller. Oh, yeah, I had him on my podcast before he was famous. You watch. I think you're going to end up being like this.
I hope you're right.
We're just getting on Dr. Matt Zoeller, as our correspondent. I think so. I've got that. I can feel that. I can feel it. I actually understand, you said you had a bit of like post-traumatic stress disorder when you had illness. I, of course, broke my neck when I was 19, but that was all okay. But not until, my son was about 13 months, I had a 60-minute seizure. And
oh, wow.
I ended up, of course, in emergency department and intensive care. Still to this day with no answers. Sort of no answers as such, as in every, test I've had. And then afterwards, I actually struggled a little bit going out in public, because I don't know whether it was maybe a bit of anxiety or something. I thought, oh, what if it happened here? Oh, what if it, I did for a little while. Like, not many people know that. I'd go to a restaurant and start getting a bit like, I don't know if it's a panic attack, because I thought it's going to might happen again. I got over it. I definitely got over it in time, as time went on, that nothing else happened. But I remember that feeling. It was like, look around and go, chairs everywhere. Oh, I'm going to put people everywhere. What if something happens here? Like, it was a strange, I think it was a little bit of some sort of post-traumatic stress, like, or anxiety, thinking it was going to happen in public. But fast forward now to all these years, I've ended up finding out, I don't know if it's related, they're not really saying, but I have pressure on my spinal cord, like a stenosis on my spinal cord. So I don't know if that's what, because it happened again when my son was 6 and he had to do CPR on me and call the ambulance and stuff. So luckily he was there. So I stopped breathing, and it all seems to be related to my neck, but no one, they check your brain. Firstly, they check your brain, look for epilepsy. No, can't find any signs. I've had but now I see a spine guy who's saying, look at this, all the MRIs lead to my neck, but they don't say, I don't know if neck pressure on the spinal cord can cause seizure. I don't know. If no one really gives me any, I don't know whether that's. Yeah, I just remember the ambulance.
Sounds like they've struggled to figure it out. Yeah. But it all sounds very, very traumatic. Absolutely. You're describing pretty well. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but you're describing pretty well at least a mild to moderate, panic. Panic disorder you had for a little while there, and as you mentioned, you sort of naturally overcame that yourself.
Yeah, it didn't happen the second time. It didn't happen. I didn't get that the second time. Thank goodness, because I knew it was okay. I put it down to that I laid down. It's only ever happened when I laid down, never upright. Only when I lay down. So never up like this, never. So I know that it's sleeping is my issue. Whether I had my neck like this, and as soon as someone sat me up, I came to. So I've been very lucky. I've just got to pursue my neck problem, which is, you need surgery, Paula. So it's sort of like, okay, I'm putting that off as long as I can.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yes, because it's just I feel so good. I feel so good. So it's hard to it's just sleeping.
It must feel strange then to have to make the decision.
Yeah, it is. It's like, okay, it's like, okay, nerve pain is creeping back while I sleep, but you sort of go, but I feel so good. I'm so fit, and I'm, which luckily my specialist has been fantastic. He goes, okay, I'll see you in June, and we'll see if that nerve pain's back. Okay. But I don't know. I think I'm one of those.
Sound like his favourite patient.
Hey. Well, he just
sound like his favourite patient.
I think he's happy. He's happy that, okay, let's just wait and watch. But this is what I think you need. Yeah. And it'll be, it'll fix you. But I just have, that I don't want to go to hospital. I don't want to be laid up. I don't want to. I know it'll benefit me, and I'm sure it will. But I'm just
it's a big deal.
Well, it's hard when you're home.
And you had your son. Your son was involved. You said he had to perform CPR.
He was amazing. I don't know what's alive. I don't know. Oh, he was very traumatized. He couldn't sleep, nightmares. He's still talks about it a lot.
Worried about you.
He knows what to do. It's amazing how he knew what to do. Incredible. And I don't know where that's going to shape his future. I just have a feeling it's, he talks about, I'm going to be a doctor.
Undoubtedly.
He just handled it, but mentally at 6, it affected. I was fine. He's like, did you not? I'm going, I didn't feel a thing. Did you feel me kick you really hard in your foot? No. Oh, that's why my foot's bruised. Like I said, I didn't feel a thing. And he's just like, it was mortifying for a little 6-year-old. But now I know he's got it. He's got something that he's now taught a whole lot of children and parents about teaching your kids young what to do in an emergency situation in the home.
Is that right?
His whole school, everything. He was on the news, and they, made him a Queensland ambulance hero. Like, it was really, really, really good for him to be recognised by the ambulance that came. And it was. I can't imagine it because it's never happened to me. But it was, nightmares were his thing. He had to get through, because he still. I think he still dreams about it. But
no, I mean, not surprised to hear that. Yeah, a big stimulus for a growing young brain. That kind of traumatic event, and as you said, there's a strong chance that that'll turn into something for him that shapes his future.
Yeah, like he's now he's in surf life saving. I think it's awesome because that's all going to involve with first aid, and he's okay with all of that stuff. He really knows how to step up. Like now he's 8 going on 9. He's even more so knows what to do. It's like my little keeper, which is lovely. It's like, but you don't expect that as a parent. You think you're looking after them and they step up to look after you. It's incredible. But
yeah, well, I suppose that the ability of humans of any kind, predisposition, age to perform in a crisis is pretty amazing to me. And some kids have got that inbuilt mechanism where they just act in those kind of situations. There's clearly almost not even a thought process that goes into it. It's just automatic action. It's something they've seen or learnt in the past, and even if they've only seen or learned it once before, it just comes straight out of them.
But it's interesting it's now for me to now watch to see which way he goes in his life, because he sometimes says vet, doctor, astronaut, or something really weird, like, I don't know, something that I go, he always talks about he's going to make millions. I go, well, that's not going to make him a billion. Like, it's kind of cute to come up with. But it seems to hang around a general, vet, or, because nothing really freaks him out, like when there's blood, or some kids are quite queasy. He's okay. He knows how to, okay, let's do this. It's quite good. Okay. So, maybe he'll end up like you. It'll be amazing.
He may well do, yeah.
He might end up being a builder. I don't mind, which I don't think so, though.
Well, as long as in the end, you do something that's of service to society, it's it's all of a benefit. It used to bother me a lot when I was trying to figure out what to do, and particularly even in medicine, which specialty to which road to go down, which specialty to choose. There's a lot of stress over that. But in the end, I'm a big fan of. I don't even know much about Alfred Adler. He's one of the original psychotherapists with Freud and Jung back in the early 1900s, and his philosophy was quite different to the other two. And one of the big things that he's got his psychology is like an individual based psychology, and his principles are more philosophical than psychological strictly. And one of his big things is that you just need to get up every day and you need to contribute to society and contribute to your own benefit, your family, your friends, and do that in the present, and don't try and predict a future. Don't try and aim for a particular future necessarily, but you will almost certainly be guaranteed to have a good future if you do contribute to every moment and every day in those kind of structures.
I love that. So do you live by that sort of your life, by that sort of motto, by that learnings from that?
I do.
Yeah, it's your thing. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, I've never really been much of a 5 or 10 year plan kind of person, and I struggle to plan much into the future. But I do believe that if you sink your teeth into the things that you're doing now, in general, you'll end up probably somewhere near what you had thought your future should end up like, but it's definitely not going to be the same. But it should be something interesting. It should be something worthwhile, and it should be something that has an interesting amount of benefit for those particular categories. Is yourself, society, your friends, your family. I firmly believe that.
I love that. And I'm following my passion now, doing Pure Grit podcast. It's my absolute passion. And this is what I've wanted to do. And it's just going to keep on persevering, keep on going and see where it goes. It's like exactly what, I want to help people, and I have a passion to hear their story and what they've overcome to get where they've got. Like you, I just loved hearing what you had to overcome, which was that childhood experience, I think, that shaped you. Being yourself on a ventilator for weeks, that's major. And look at you now. It's like amazing. It's amazing that is, anyone listening, let's give that little bit of inspiration that they take from just having a listen to you, and it can shape them just like that, just from one, something, in a minute that you might say, it can make a difference. And, I just wanted to ask you one more thing. When you were like hitting an all-night dance floor at the Pickled Possum, what was your favourite song back then to hit the dance floor to? Or do you have no memory of what you loved dancing to? What was your song? What was your song?
I think that the problem was that I didn't just have one song. That's why the nights were all-nighters. But no, I think that if anyone from university is listening, they'll know that as soon as Rhianna's Umbrella was thrown up on the dance floor, there was nothing you could do to stop me. That's right.
I love it. That was your song. My song's on, and you just went out and hit the floor.
And then every remix of that same song as well up thereafter.
Oh, I love it. I love that song. I like you even more that you like to dance, because that's my thing too.
That's a guilty pleasure, that one. Yeah.
And still today, still like to dance.
The Umbrella song.
Well, just dance around the house, put the music on, do your moves.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, when you got a toddler, you have to teach them to love music as well. So it's not like it's hard, but regular exposure to music is something that's is a big part of our family life now. It's very different to what it used to be for me.
And it's going to be a little bit more different with the second one coming along. But so it's so
that's
beautiful,
right.
so lucky. How many more kids do you think you're going to have? You don't know, I guess. But maybe you end up.
I don't know, but it's going to be. Well, the girls are definitely outnumbering me already, and they're going to outnumber me more. So we might have to go again to get a boy in there for some more balance.
Oh, I'm predicting a few more girls.
Yeah. One of my uncles is a staunch blokey bloke with he's been a fisherman his whole life and built pools, and he's a tough guy, and he had 4 girls. So he's
never got his son.
No, but he's he tried to pull in all the boyfriends after that to get more of that attention. So he's had the pool tables and the table tennis tables and all that kind of stuff as well.
That's hilarious. Thank you so much, Matt, for being my guest on Pure Grit podcast. It was really nice to meet you and to hear your story, and I wish you all the best with My Mirror. And I also, fingers crossed, we don't get a second wave of COVID. I'm being really hopeful that we don't, and it will be manageable if that happens. Sort of a little bit hangs over my head with winter coming, because we've had such it's been a good time being hot. I worry that the flu season's coming, then everyone's going to think they've got COVID because they've got just a cold. And I'm sure that's going to be a little bit of the case, but at least we're sort of ready to test, I suppose. I'll probably be even I've just got a cold, oh no, corona. Achoo, at the moment we make jokes and we sneeze, we go, corona. But I hope we don't get a second.
You certainly won't be alone.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you certainly won't.
No, I just hope for you too, with your being in intensive care, that, it's really good to hear from an expert like you that it has been pretty quiet in on the COVID front on the ventilators. Hope no one has to end up on a ventilator like you for 4 weeks, as you did as a child. You're amazing, Matt. Well done. Look how healthy you are and fit, and 2 kids and doing well. Nice to meet you, and wish you all the best.
Very nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
You're more than welcome.
Not bad looking either. Can you imagine sort of coming to in intensive care and he's your doctor? You sort of think, oh, who am I? I said that to him. Thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, please, because then you won't miss any episodes if you're interested in the next one coming up. Or hit me up on social media, or send me a message to my website, puregrit.com.au. But subscribe. I've been told that's what you have to do on YouTube. Next week's episode is Barb DeCourty. Now, she has become a multi-millionaire single mum, grew up in a village, came to Australia and has grown an absolute empire. And she tells you what it takes to get where she did. And anyone can do it. See you next week.